Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today, we're going back in time, way back, to unlock the secrets of a leader whose wisdom still resonates today. And we're talking about Imam Ali, a pivotal figure in Islamic history.
A pivotal figure, yeah, absolutely. It's really incredible, isn't it? We're so fortunate to have, I mean, not just historical accounts of his life, but like an actual letter written by Imam Ali himself
Right.
offering advice on leadership, ethical leadership. I mean, it's as relevant now as it was all those centuries ago.
It really is. And to make things even more interesting, we're also going to be diving into a more recent article that looks at how his legacy is celebrated today. So it's like we're bridging this gap between the past and present.
Exactly. And I was really struck by how Imam Ali, he balanced this spiritual leadership with a really practical, hands-on approach to governing.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Okay, so for our listeners who maybe aren't as familiar with Islamic history, can you give us like some context? Who was Imam Ali and what made him such a respected figure?
Sure. So Imam Ali was the fourth caliph, which means he was the leader of the Muslim community after the Prophet Muhammad.
All right.
But he also holds this special significance as the first imam of the Ahlul Bayt,
Okay.
which is the Prophet Muhammad's family.
Oh, so that would be like the Prophet's inner circle, those closest to him.
Exactly, exactly. And for many Muslims, they carry this really special spiritual significance.
I see.
So you can see how Imam Ali's role was kind of multifaceted, encompassing both political and spiritual leadership.
That's quite a combination. But what else made him stand out both in his own time and for, centuries to come?
Well, I mean, beyond his lineage, he was known for his sharp intellect and his ability to really articulate these complex ideas.
Mm-hmm.
He was a really brilliant jurist. So that's someone who interprets and applies Islamic law.
Okay.
And a gifted writer. There are entire collections of his sayings, sermons, and letters that people still study, to this day.
It's amazing, right, how some writing just manages to transcend its time and still offers insights that are relevant centuries later.
Yeah.
And speaking of timeless wisdom, let's talk about that letter. This isn't just like any casual correspondence, right? This is a leadership guide written by Imam Ali to Malik al-Ashtar, who had just been appointed the governor of Egypt.
This letter, it's remarkable. It was written centuries ago, but it's still studied by leaders and scholars today for its insights on, ethical governance.
Wow.
And just recently I came across this article. It was about a modern leadership program in Dubai that actually incorporates principles from Imam Ali's letter into their curriculum.
Really? Wow. So they're using a 7th century text to train 21st century leaders. That really speaks volumes about the enduring power of these ideas.
It really does, yeah.
So what are some of the core principles that Imam Ali lays out for Malik al-Ashtar in this letter?
So one of the most striking things about this letter is how strongly Imam Ali emphasizes justice and compassion, even for those outside the Muslim community.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this really powerful line where he tells Malik, remember, Malik, that among your subjects there are two kinds of people, those who have the same religion as you and those who have religions other than yours, but are human beings like you. Be kind and considerate to them, forgiving and overlooking their mistakes.
Wow, that's incredibly forward thinking, especially for that time period. It's not just about tolerance, right? It's about actively extending kindness and understanding to those who are different from you.
Yeah.
What a refreshing perspective for any leader to embrace, regardless of the century.
Absolutely. And Imam Ali, he wasn't just speaking, theoretically here. He was giving Malik practical advice on how to build a stable and just society.
Okay.
He understood that recognizing the shared humanity of all citizens, regardless of their beliefs, was crucial for fostering a sense of unity and loyalty.
Right. It sounds like he's laying the groundwork for a society where everyone feels valued and respected.
Yes, exactly.
But I'm guessing his advice, it goes beyond just treating people well, right?
Oh, definitely. So he gets into these very specific recommendations. Mm-hmm. He warns Malik against becoming isolated and losing touch with the people he governs.
Yeah.
Highlighting how important it is to stay connected to the realities on the ground.
That's such a trap that so many leaders fall into, even today. You get surrounded by advisors and yes men, and you lose sight of the everyday challenges that your people are facing.
Precisely, yeah. And Imam Ali's advice to Malik speaks directly to that pitfall.
Wow.
He also stresses the importance of humility and service. And there's this really lovely anecdote about how the Prophet Muhammad once advised Imam Ali to lead prayers in a way that wouldn't burden the weakest member of the congregation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful illustration of leadership as service. Like
Right.
considering the needs of even the most vulnerable members of your community. I wonder how many of us in positions of authority really think that way.
It's a valuable lesson for all of us.
Oh, sure.
And this emphasis on humility, it's also apparent in how Imam Ali approached his own personal life. He's known for his simple lifestyle and his commitment to serving others.
Mm-hmm. So he was walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly.
This commitment to action is also evident in his letter to Malik. Are there any particular examples of his practical advice on governance that really stand out to you?
Absolutely. So one area that he focuses on is taxation.
Okay.
And he advises Malik to find this balance, to make sure that the state has the resources that it needs,
Right.
but to avoid burdening the people with excessive taxes. And he even suggests using tax revenue to invest in public works like irrigation and infrastructure.
Oh, that's fascinating. So he's essentially advocating for responsible fiscal policy and investments that benefit the entire community. It's almost like he's outlining a blueprint for sustainable economic development, centuries before those terms even existed.
You hit the nail on the head.
Wow.
Yeah. He also emphasizes the importance of consultation and seeking advice from wise and experienced individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells Malik, do not be ashamed to seek advice and consult with the wise, even if they are of humble origin.
That's powerful. That's a really powerful message about valuing expertise and wisdom over status or social standing.
Right. And it speaks to his emphasis on meritocracy and inclusivity.
Exactly. So we have this really multifaceted figure, right? A political leader, a spiritual guide, a champion of justice, a writer of timeless wisdom. It's clear why his legacy continues to resonate.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get too lost in the 7th century, let's shift our focus to the present day.
Yeah.
You mentioned a recent article about how Imam Ali's legacy is celebrated today. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. The article, it focuses on Yami Ali,
Okay.
which translates to Day of Ali.
Huh?
It's a day of celebration and reflection that commemorates Imam Ali's birth. And it's particularly significant for Ismaili Muslims who see it as an opportunity to kind of reaffirm their commitment to the principles that he embodied.
So even though, he lived over 1,000 years ago, his impact is still felt today. People are still celebrating his life and drawing inspiration from his teachings.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful legacy.
Absolutely. And it's not just about his political leadership.
Right.
He's also revered as a spiritual master,
Mm-hmm.
a mawla, which signifies, a guide, a mentor on the spiritual path.
That's really interesting. Tell me more about this kind of spiritual side of Imam Ali.
So he is considered a bearer of nur, which means light.
Mm-hmm.
And he's often seen as this source of, divine guidance.
Okay.
And this connects to the concept of shafa, or intercession.
Hold on. Could you elaborate on that concept for our listeners who might not be as familiar with Islamic theology?
Of course. So think of it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you need a favor from someone, really important,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have direct access to it.
Right.
You might ask, a trusted friend who has a close relationship with that person to put in a good word for you.
Okay.
And that's a really simplified way to understand intercession. It's seeking the help of someone spiritually close to God to convey your prayers or ask for forgiveness on your behalf.
So it's not about worshiping that individual, but recognizing their spiritual stature and asking for their guidance and support in connecting with the divine.
Exactly. And this concept is supported by the Quran itself.
Okay.
Which specifically mentions the Prophet Muhammad's role as an intercessor, emphasizing, God's forgiveness and mercy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming this concept of intercession, it extends to other revered figures like imams and Sufi peers or sheikhs.
But right, you're right. In many Muslim communities, the power of intercession is believed to extend to, individuals considered to be spiritually enlightened.
Right.
They're seen as channels of, God's grace and mercy, helping to guide and support believers on their spiritual journey.
Yeah. So we've got this multifaceted figure, a political leader, a spiritual master, a champion of justice. But I'm curious, was Imam Ali just someone who talked the talk, or did he actually walk the walk? Did he live by the principles that he preached?
That's what's so inspiring about Imam Ali.
Yeah.
He was known for his incredible humility and his commitment to serving others. Even in a position of power, He lived simply and always put the needs of the people first.
Do you have any specific examples of like how he embodied those values? I love a good anecdote.
There are many. There are many.
Okay.
He was known for secretly delivering food to the needy at night,
Yeah.
and there are stories about him mending his own clothes and shoes, even when he was the caliph.
Wow.
Yeah,
Those actions really speak louder than any words. It shows he wasn't just like preaching humility, he was living it every single day.
exactly.
And this commitment to living his values, I mean, that's a key part of his legacy. He understood it's not enough to have like these noble ideas. You have to actually embody them in your actions.
Right.
And his life serves as such a powerful testament to that principle.
It really does.
His life is definitely food for thought for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've talked about his letter, his spiritual influence, and his personal character. But you mentioned earlier that there are these collections of his sayings and writings. What can you tell us about those?
So his words are like this treasure trove of wisdom.
Okay.
And the most famous collection is called Najul Balaga, which translates to Peak of Eloquence.
Oh, wow.
And it's filled with these sermons, letters, and sayings that cover a wide range of topics, from spirituality and ethics to politics and governance.
It sounds like required reading for anyone interested in leadership or history or just like good advice in general.
It really is.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in just this first part of our deep dive into the life and legacy of Imam Ali. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more fascinating insights after a quick break. Welcome back to our deep dive into the life and legacy of Imam Ali. We've been exploring his remarkable journey as a leader, scholar, and spiritual guide. Before the break, we touched on his profound collection of writings, Najul Balaga.
Yeah, Najul Balaga, it really is like a wellspring of wisdom.
Yeah.
It offers insights into everything from personal ethics to navigating the complexities of leadership and governance.
And I'm curious, is there a particular passage or quote from Najul Balaga that really resonates with you personally?
Oh, there are so many to choose from, but one that always kind of stands out to me is knowledge enlivens the soul. It is the light in the darkness and the vision for the blind.
Mm.
And this really speaks to Imam Ali's emphasis on the importance of seeking knowledge. And not just as an intellectual pursuit, right? But as a pathway to spiritual enlightenment.
Yeah, it's a reminder that true knowledge isn't just about accumulating facts. It's about illuminating our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. It's about seeing things more clearly with greater depth and compassion.
Exactly. And that pursuit of knowledge, that desire for enlightenment, is a cornerstone of the Ismaili tradition.
It's amazing to see how those threads kind of connect, like how Imam Ali's teachings from centuries ago continue to shape the beliefs and practices of the Ismaili community today.
Mm-hmm. It's a testament to the enduring power of his ideas.
So we have this emphasis on knowledge, humility, service. Any other nuggets of wisdom from Najul Balaga that we should be scribbling down in our notebooks?
Oh, countless gems to discover, but one that I find particularly relevant, especially in our hyper-connected, fast-paced world, is he who has 1,000 friends has not a friend to spare, and he who has one enemy will meet him everywhere.
Ooh, that's a powerful statement. What do you think Imam Ali was getting at with that quote? It seems to suggest that, we should be cautious about spreading ourselves too thin in our relationships.
Yeah, it's a profound reflection on the nature of human connection.
Hmm.
I think what Imam Ali is really urging us to do is to be mindful of the quality of our relationships. It's so easy to get caught up in, accumulating these social connections.
Right.
But genuine bonds, they require time, effort, and sincere engagement.
It's a reminder to prioritize those meaningful connections over superficial ones. It's about nurturing those relationships that truly enrich our lives and support our growth.
Exactly. And the second part of that quote, he who has one enemy will meet him everywhere. It's equally insightful, I think. It suggests that those unresolved conflicts, those lingering resentments that we carry within us can have this far-reaching impact on our lives.
It's we carry that negativity with us, and it just colors our perceptions and our interactions, even in situations that have nothing to do with the original conflict. It's a reminder to address those issues head on.
Yeah.
To seek resolution, to find a way to let go of that burden.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about finding a path to healing and forgiveness for ourselves and for those who have wronged them.
This quote really packs a punch. It's deceptively simple, yet profoundly relevant to the challenges we face in our modern lives.
This certainly does.
Yeah.
Imam Ali had this this knack for distilling complex truths into these like concise and memorable statements.
Yeah, so we've explored his letter, his spiritual role, his personal character, his profound words of wisdom. But I want to shift our focus to something you mentioned earlier, the concept of Imam Ali as like a spiritual master, a mawla. And this seems to go beyond like his political leadership and delve into like the realm of personal transformation and spiritual guidance.
You're absolutely right. In many Muslim traditions, and particularly within the Ismaili community, Imam Ali is revered not just as this like historical figure, but as an ongoing source of spiritual inspiration and guidance.
Can you elaborate on like what that means in practice? How does this like concept of Imam Ali as a mawla manifest in the lives of like contemporary Ismailis?
So I think it's about recognizing that spiritual growth is this like ongoing journey. It's not something that you achieve overnight.
Right.
It's a continuous process of learning, reflection, and striving to like embody those values of compassion, justice, and service that Imam Ali, exemplified.
So it's about living a life guided by his teachings, both in like the personal and the public spheres.
Precisely. And that journey, it isn't something that you undertake alone.
Right.
The Imam, as a spiritual guide, plays this crucial role in illuminating the path, offering wisdom and support along the way.
So in a way, the like acts as a conduit, connecting individuals to a deeper understanding of their faith and their own like potential for spiritual growth.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about nurturing that connection between the temporal and the spiritual, the individual and the community, the intellect and the heart.
So how does this concept of spiritual leadership, how does it relate to like the current imam in the Ismaili tradition, His Highness the Aga Khan IV? Earlier you mentioned a direct line of succession from Imam Ali to the present-day imam. Can you tell us a little bit more about that lineage?
Sure. So in the Ismaili tradition, the imam is seen as a direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad through his daughter Fatima and her husband, Imam Ali.
Okay.
And this lineage is continued for over 1,400 years.
Wow.
Passing from one generation to the next, ensuring this continuity of spiritual guidance.
It's a remarkable tradition, like a living connection to the very roots of Islam.
Mhm.
So how does the current imam embody the legacy of Imam Ali?
So, His Highness the Aga Khan IV has dedicated his life to upholding those values that Imam Ali, championed.
Mhm.
Values like education, pluralism, and social development. He's a tireless advocate for peace, understanding, and ethical leadership.
It sounds like he's really carrying that torch forward, applying those timeless principles to like the challenges of the modern world. Can you give us some specific examples of like how those values are being put into action?
Absolutely. So one of the most visible expressions of his vision is the Aga Khan Development Network. It's a group of agencies that work to improve the quality of life for people in some of the most vulnerable communities around the world.
So it's not just about like spiritual guidance. It's about tangible action, making a real difference in people's lives.
Exactly. It's about translating those principles of compassion, justice, and service into these concrete initiatives that empower communities and build a more equitable world.
I'm struck by how like the Aga Khan development networks work. It echoes Imam Ali's advice to Malik al-Ashtar in that letter we discussed earlier, that emphasis on responsible governance, investing in public works, and creating a society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
It's incredible to see how those ideas articulated centuries ago are still shaping positive change in the world today. It's a powerful testament to the enduring legacy of Imam Ali.
It really, really is. We'll be right back after a quick break to delve a little deeper into this inspiring legacy and explore some final thoughts on how we can apply these timeless teachings to our own lives. Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We've been on quite the journey exploring the life and legacy of Imam Ali, from his political acumen to his spiritual depth and his just timeless words of wisdom, really.
Yeah, it's amazing how relevant his teachings remain, even after all these centuries.
Absolutely. But before we wrap up, I just want to make sure that, our listeners don't feel overwhelmed by all of this information. We've covered a lot of ground, and it's easy to get lost, in the sheer volume of his writings and the complexity of his ideas.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, we've only just, scratched the surface of Imam Ali's legacy. And this deep dive, it's really meant to be like a starting point, an invitation to further exploration.
Exactly. So for our listeners who are, eager to learn more, where would you suggest they go from here? What resources or avenues could they explore?
Well, as we've mentioned, Najul Balagha is kind of a must-read. There's so many translations and commentaries available, both online and in print.
And I imagine there are also like websites and organizations that are dedicated to preserving and sharing his teachings, right?
Absolutely, yeah. The Ismaili community, for example, they have a wealth of resources that are available through the Aga Khan Development Network and other institutions. And there are, numerous academic centers and scholars who have dedicated their lives to studying Imam Ali's work.
So it sounds like there's a whole world of knowledge waiting to be discovered, but
Yeah.
beyond just, reading, how else can our listeners kind of engage with Imam Ali's legacy in a meaningful way?
So I think it's important to go beyond, that passive learning and find ways to actually connect these teachings to our own lives.
Yeah.
Reflect on the ideas that we've discussed today. What resonates with you personally? What challenges you?
Yeah, turn it into a conversation,
Mhm.
Discuss these ideas with your friends, your family, your colleagues, maybe even start a study group.
Exactly. And don't just limit yourself to the intellectual side of things,
Mhm.
Think about how you can embody Imam Ali's values in your own actions. Like how can you be more compassionate, more just, more committed to service in your everyday life?
Those are those are powerful questions to consider.
Yeah, it's about taking inspiration from his example and finding ways to make a positive difference in the world around us, even in small ways.
And remember, as Imam Ali himself said, a small good deed is better than a big intention.
Mm,
Every act of kindness, every effort to make the world a more just and equitable place, it contributes to building a better future.
it really does.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thought to end on.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the life and legacy of Imam Ali, I just want to leave our listeners with a sense of hope and possibility. His life and his teachings, they demonstrate that even in the face of adversity and challenge, we can choose to be, beacons of light, to embody those values of wisdom, compassion, and service that he championed. And as we navigate the complexities of our modern world, let's keep his teachings close to our hearts, using them as a compass to guide our actions and shape our choices.
Yes, well said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey. And until next time, keep diving deep.